Welcome into TDN Against the Spread. It is good to be here with all my guys. Jake is back off the IR. He has made it back. He is a part of the show. We're happy to have him here. No offense, Jamie. I was going to go to you, but I got to give my guy an opportunity to speak for the first time in what feels like for the first time in 2021, man. Like, how are you doing? Feels good to have you
I think
here.
it is the first time I'm speaking in 2021. Man, I tell you what, the last few weeks have been brutal. The COVID-19 got me, and I guess it hits everybody differently, and it actually kicked my ass for more than a couple weeks. So it's still there. People pay attention, wear your masks. I hope everybody stays safe because you do not want what I had.
That is for sure a good message from us directly to you to keep taking care of yourself and following the precautions to do your best job to stay safe and stay healthy. But we are here to talk playoffs, guys. We have some unbelievable divisional matchups. And the best part is, Jake, you haven't even had the opportunity to talk about the fact the Bucs are in the playoffs, man. They are in the playoffs. They won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Feels pretty good, doesn't it, Jake? Feels pretty good. Talk to the Bucs fans who had a little tough time, right? Like, I did it for you while you were gone, but you gotta talk directly to the fans.
You held down the fort. Look, I mean, haven't won a playoff game since 2003, since they won the Super Bowl. Hadn't been in 13 years. It's exciting times. I mean, the Tom Brady effect has been tremendous. This team was really good last year. Had some issues. It got better. They started. I forget who said it. Maybe it was Levante the other day. Maybe it was Mike Evans. We started off good. We started building, and they're getting to the point where they could be great before this is over with. I mean, I said yesterday on a show, you limp into the bye week, and sometimes, and you guys know this, but as a former player, by the time you get to week 10, nobody's healthy. And you may think you're 85%, but you're really 70%. When your bye week comes in week 13, and you've been struggling with that, that's the difference in losing to the Rams and the Chiefs by 3 points. Mentally and physically, you're just not there. So while that week 13 bye week hurt, in a lot of ways, it really helped because you had a chance to win those 4 coming out and get hot, which Tom has been on fire. Then you go into the playoffs on the road, you win one. Nobody wants to see us coming, including the Saints. I can't wait for all these games this weekend, but I feel really good about where the Bucs are right now.
Nobody wants to see us come in. Guns blazing. Todd Bowles, talk to me, dude. Like, I was like, who took over Todd? Like, what is going on here? I am all about this life. Like, I am very excited to get into that matchup, which we'll get into last. This first matchup, guys, this is a really fun one, right? Because I think that people are just chalking this up to there is no chance, right? No chance that Jared Goff can beat Aaron Rodgers. Well, he's beaten Aaron Rodgers before. So check the tape. It's happened before in his career. So just start there, right? The second part of this is, right, I think the biggest part is we have the most efficient offense going up against the 4th most efficient defense, right? So I'm excited to see these two teams match up against each other, elite of elite, and go, okay, who walks out saying we are the elite, right? Could it be Green Bay at home? I assume that's the way you guys are going to lean. How are you guys feeling about this one? I'll let you go first, Jamie. How are you feeling about this one with the Rams at 6.5 and obviously getting points on the road at Lambeau Field?
I know what you just said, Paige, but I'm still not going to pick Jared Goff to go on the road in the postseason to Lambeau and beat this Packers team. But I do think this is going to be a really fun game. The game within the game is watching Aaron Rodgers playing at just such a ridiculously high level this year versus Brandon Staley's defense. It's also playing at a very high level from top to bottom. And that, to me, is the marquee matchup. I know everyone likes to compare quarterback versus quarterback or whatever it is. It's when Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers offense is on the field, in the cold, at home against the LA defense, that is must-see TV for that entire drive, however many times we get that opportunity per game. I'm really excited to see if the Rams can continue to run the ball as effectively as they have with Cam Akers over the last month plus so. That will be key to them to kind of staying within this game and putting it within striking distance. But for me, when it all comes down to it, if I'm going to pick one quarterback to win me the football game, it's always going to be Aaron Rodgers at home. Almost always in general, but definitely over an injured Jared Goff on the road.
So this poster should really be Aaron Donald and Aaron Rodgers, right? It's all about the Aarons here because respectfully to Jared Goff, this is, as I said, this is about the fact that these are efficiency at a high level on offense and on defense, right? Jake, I'll set you up with this, right? The Green Bay Packers, right? It makes me sick to tell you this, right? I really don't want to say it out loud, but I read it and I went, this cannot be true, right? I read it, said, no, there's no chance. It is true. The Green Bay Packers have more passing touchdowns than they do punts this year. Okay? 48 passing touchdowns to 46 punts this year. I read that statistic and went, okay, that efficiency is dumb, right? That is a dumb level of efficiency. Aaron is scoring at will. We called it the FU tour early on in the year. It took a pause in Tampa, right? There was a pause for the FU tour. It regained steam towards the end of the year. The MVP campaign regained steam towards the end of the year. How are you feeling about this one? Aaron at home, Jake.
You guys know I'm not big on analytics, right? But if I was going to start my own algorithm, it's going to start with head coach, quarterback continuity, and who's better at home. Well, they're 26-3 together in 2 years. And Aaron Rodgers at home, I'm not betting against. I don't give a damn who they're playing, how healthy their thumb is, and what else. It doesn't matter. Aaron Rodgers' numbers when it's cold are absolutely insane. It does not bother him whatsoever. His efficiency is just as high. My big question mark was the Green Bay Packer defense against this running game. Jamie just mentioned, do they play like they did against the Titans, where they really slowed Derrick Henry down? Can they put the game on Jared Goff and that bum thumb? I think the thumb's going to be okay. But, dude, it's cold. Just think about how bad your hands feel without 3 pins in there. Like, he has 3 pins in his thumb. And he's going to Green Bay to play this game. I like what the Packers have done on defense, but when you start talking about the playoffs, give me the better quarterback. Give me the better quarterback at home, especially when it's a place like Green Bay, when it's freezing freaking cold, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to be bothered by it whatsoever.
Jake, I have to tell you guys this story because you need to illustrate what that actually means, how cold that is, right? So when the Super Bowl was in Minneapolis a few years ago, I did this thing with Gatorade where they made me ingest a thermometer with a bunch of other people to recreate what it is like to actually play at Lambeau Field, right? So we were outside running. We ran 2 miles. We did this whole workout. Midway through the workout, they came up to me and they tapped me on the shoulder. And they're like, your internal temperature is at a point at which we are scared for you. You actually have to go inside. Like, your health is at risk. You need to go inside. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, but this is what Aaron Rodgers does for every game. And they're like, yes, this is a really nice way of us telling you aren't Aaron Rodgers. Okay. And I was like, this is BS. Like, I was pissed. I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm staying out here. And they were like, no, like, we're worried about you. Like, we might have to take you to the hospital. And I was like, oh, so it's that cold. Like, that's the level of cold. Like, I literally had it. They were worried. They thought I was going to go to the hospital. Like, that is the level of Lambeau Field. That is what he thrives in that. I can assure you that Jared Goff, Cali boy, is not going to be thriving in the cold. That's not going to be something he's going to feel comfortable in. It's just not, it's not his thing. He's not used to it. And I just, as much as I want to try and get either one of you to pick the Rams, I know neither one of you is going to do that. I know it's not going to happen. Like, you guys, is there any chance, Jake, any chance the Rams could pull off an upset, or you don't see that happening?
No, there is. And I'll tell you that the big reason why is Aaron Donald breaking through the line fast enough that if you sling Aaron Rodgers to the ground, how many times has he broken that collarbone?
No, a lot.
Whether he slings him or falls on top of him, whatever it is, he knocks Aaron Rodgers out of this game, then yeah, there's a chance. I think this game's probably really close for a while. It's just the efficiency you talked about earlier, Paige. Aaron Rodgers is playing at a level we haven't seen. I don't think he gets the credit for how good he is because he makes it look so damn easy, but he is playing at a high, high level. The other thing here we need to talk about is Jalen Ramsey is phenomenal, had an unbelievable year, but it's a different beast taking on DK Metcalf when you're already a really big dude than Devontae Adams coming off the line. Devontae Adams is still going to get his. It might be 5 and 6 yard screenplays here and there. And Jalen Ramsey's a great tackler, but Devontae Adams is not going to be taken out of this game like he has taken DK Metcalf out of those games when they played the Seahawks. The other thing, who's going to be the second complementary piece? Is it Tunyon getting in the end zone? Because you're not going to go to Williams on the other side. I mean, this Rams defense is really, really good. To me, if they hurt Aaron Rodgers or they can get to him quick early, he's going to be fine as long as he's not injured. But there's a chance of that happening. We've seen it before.
Of course there is. I think dear NFL, please mic up Jalen Ramsey and Devontae Adams, because although they told us that they like each other, yeah, okay. One thing Jalen Ramsey says, and this is going to turn into a bloodbath between the two of them. Like, please mic them up so we can all hear afterwards, right? After the game, you can, slice and dice. I know we can't hear any of the fun stuff, but you should still mic them up because it should be a top tier matchup within this game. Jamie, what you did is you are giving everybody, we have had a lot of fun with these player props, right? We've had a lot of fun with these player props. And unfortunately, the Buccaneers took your guy out last week, so you can't ride JD McKissick for the rest of time, right? So you got to pick some other guys that you like for these player props. So who do you like in this game? You're going to give everybody a player prop in every game, and then what's the best bet here?
Yeah. So again, as my disclaimer from last week, apologies if you see me looking off screen. I don't want to give you bad information. So I'm going to give you the exact information that I researched here. Let's go back to the point we just talked about. Can the Rams establish the run like they want to? Jared Goff has got pins in his thumb. Do you really, like, just logically speaking, do you want your season to come down to an injured arm of Jared Goff? No, you don't. The Rams are predisposed to run the football. You can run the ball with some success on Green Bay. And if the Rams are going to upset them and go on to the NFC Championship game, it's going to be on the back of a strong running performance from their rookie Cam Akers. Since week 13, he's rushed an average of 22.8 times per game, with only one game with fewer than 21 carries. And that's about the amount of times teams run on Green Bay in general with their running backs. I think you can get to that mark here. I don't expect this to be a blowout. Like Jake was saying, there is a path for the Rams to win this game. I'm not going to pick them to, but this is not inconceivable. I don't expect this to be a blowout that you're going like, can we run some errands between this and the night game? I don't think that's going to be a problem at all. But I think if the Rams are going to keep this close, they're going to have to run the ball early, often, and effectively. And they have shown that Cam Akers is going to be their guy right now, and it looks like going forward.
All right, Jamie, it is now time to give the people the best bet of the day, right? We've reached the point at which we're going to talk about the best bet, right? And I like some of these ones because they're a little different. We gave you a little bit. It's like going in the first half. We like a first quarter. We like a little bit of everything because maybe we don't like the line, right? We're going to pick against the spread. The guys already told you that, but you're also going to get something extra, right? It's postseason. Go ahead, James. What's your best bet?
Yeah, let's start with the first half one again. I like the Packers over 13.5 points in the first half of this game. They are the best team in the NFL in first half scoring at 18.7 points per game, and they're the best team in the NFL at home in first half scoring with just a shade over that at 18.8. And while Brandon Staley and company have been phenomenal coming out of the locker room, like their second half adjustments have been savant-like for most of this season. You can catch them in the first half. They're allowing an average about 14.8 points per game in the first half, the fifth worst mark in the entire NFL, like the period. So for a defense of that talent level to be in the bottom five in any significant category is a shock to me. I think the Packers can get up on them early because while it's going to be cold, the weather isn't going to be bad, especially for the Packers players. Like the wind is going to be fine. There's not going to be precipitation. Green Bay is just going to be playing in the cold. Those guys are practicing in it. So they're not going to have any issues, I think, getting off to a hot start.
You did not get a full Vanna White. Okay, we did not get the full extreme weather report that we're used to. So it's just gonna be cold, but there's no precipitation. Okay, Jamie made sure to make sure that he enunciated correctly and got that word in there to let you guys know it's not going to be anything that he's too worried about, right? And when you get the full weather report that he's really high on one over or under. So he's liking the over here thus far. Let's move on to for my money, this next game is, if I wasn't so interested in the Buccaneers, right? If I didn't have a vested interest in that team, this would be the game that I was the most interested in over the weekend, because this is the AFC and these are two guys who are young quarterbacks, man. It is so exciting. You got Lamar Jackson coming off of his first win in the playoffs against Josh Allen and that Bills team that hasn't won in forever, right? There's so many great storylines here, and Buffalo playing at home and coming off of that victory where you can find a kind of both of these guys, right? Both quarterbacks can take a deep breath now, right? Because getting that off your back feels good. It gives you a confidence. We've obviously seen Josh Allen play at a high level, an MVP level this season. Jake, Buffalo, this place well. They're going to have, I think it's like 6,000, right? 7,000 fans. They were loud last week, man. Even though there was only 6,000 of them, they were loud. It felt like they were really 60,000. And I think all the players said the same thing. What do you expect from this one? Obviously, Ravens getting 2.5 points, but the Bills at home, it's hard for me to go against them.
Man, Josh Allen last week, they came out a little bit tight to me. You could kind of feel the expectations of having won a playoff game in 25 years, but they settled in and they settled through that really nicely. Josh Allen, I love the play where they basically caught a quarterback sneak and he ends up throwing a touchdown pass. Like he gets stopped and he just like shoves one out there for a touchdown. You're like, all right, this guy's just making plays. Well, I loved what the Ravens did. That was my lock of the week last week. I was in bed while you guys were doing the show. Um, they didn't play that great. They had the flash plays. A 47-yard touchdown from Lamar was a little bit of flash dressing on a game that wasn't really played that well. Their defense was really good, but their offense wasn't that great. To me, this entire game comes down to Buffalo's line of scrimmage. Offensive line, can they keep Josh Allen enough time, because he got out of the pocket a little too quick last week a few times, and can their defensive line and linebackers hold up against this running game? You can run it on Buffalo. To me, that's this entire game is going to come down to, can they slow down Lamar in that running game enough that they have to put it on Lamar's arms? He's thrown it better. He's progressed as a passer. He threw an awful pick last week for a playoff game, guys. Like, that was a horrendously bad throw. Well, the wind's going to be blowing in Buffalo. If it's blowing 15, that's a calm day in Buffalo. It's not an easy place to throw. I think the Bills have the advantage. I like them here, but they got to slow down the run, or this could get really, really interesting.
All right, so you're right on the line there. So you're taking the Bills. You're taking the Bills with 3, correct? I'm just making sure
Yep.
okay. You're taking the Bills with 3. Just got to make sure we keep those against the spread picks up to date for the entire year. So he's officially taking the Bills. It's 2.5 as of right now. Jamie, who are you going to take in this game? Because I'm excited. I don't want to overhype this game, but it just feels so like such a big change, right? For the Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers for such a long time. That is what we saw in the AFC. And these two guys, feels like we might get this for a while, right? And then obviously Patrick Mahomes, we'll talk about in a little bit.
About to say, I mean, that next one could very well be Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen meeting a few times in the conference championship game going forward. I'm going to go with the Bills here. There is going to be, it looks like, some precipitation in Buffalo, and it's going to be in the form of snow and 20+ mile an hour winds. And I think if there's a team that's built for it, Buffalo can have that success, and Josh Allen with his arm strength can throw it through those sorts of gusts for me. This game is tough because I think it's going to be extremely exciting. Two of the hotter teams in the conference going up against each other. Baltimore's ability to run the ball extremely effectively is going to test Buffalo's run defense that got a little bit better late in the year, but wasn't really tested like they were in the early part of the season. So I want to see if it's more of they actually got better, or it just kind of played into their offense putting up so many points that teams really just didn't have the opportunity to run the ball as much against them throughout the game. Baltimore's not going to get away from it unless they get down by 3 scores. That's just not how their offense is built. I'm going to lean the Bills here. I think they can handle the weather better. They're at home. To me, so far, if I look over the last handful of weeks, I think they've been the best team in the AFC in recent memory. And I'm saying that, and I know what team we're still to talk about. I think they are the best team in the AFC today. And I think they're going to be able to get the job done here at home. So I'm going to pick them to win and cover.
I love it. I love it. I hope we get Mahomes and Allen, and I hope we get it for a long time, because that's going to be, wow, what a matchup. All right, Jamie, I like here for your player prop, right? You got a player prop and your best bet, and they tie in together, right? Which is a little extra sauce here on the best bet. So go ahead, James. What do you like coming out of this one?
Well, let's go with the guy that scored a touchdown in 7 straight games. Let's make it 8 here with a J.K. Dobbins rushing touchdown. Ravens are going to run the ball a ton. You already know that. They're going to have to run it even more when it's going to be windy and potentially snowy. And Mark Ingram's probably going to be inactive for this game again, like he was last week on Wild Card Weekend. I see no reason why Dobbins can't find his way into the end zone at some point in this game at -115 odds.
All right, -115. You guys know what the best bet is and what the player prop is for this game. All right, moving on. We've talked about it. We alluded to it. You knew it was coming. All right. The Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs, right? Jake, you remember a couple weeks ago on the podcast and we were like, the Brownies and the Bills, right? And we were like, man, the Brownies and the Bills, and they might get there. And man, they both did. And never, right? I'm so upset that you missed last week talking about this Pittsburgh Steelers meltdown against this Browns team, right?
Meltdown or beatdown?
It was a meltdown. It was a beatdown. Whatever the hell your word you wanted. It was all the downs, right? It was a lot of down. There wasn't a lot of up for Pittsburgh, right? It was ugly. And I was looking forward to talking to that one. But I think more so, we have pushed on this Browns team, right, guys? Our favorite. We're going to get t-shirts made. Do not worry, people. Substance over swag. Okay. We have pushed this. We talked about it in the summer with this Browns team. We're like, go do something. Okay. Well, they've done something. They got to the postseason and they beat up Big Brother. That's a whole lot of something now. Now they've got a this is not Big Brother. This is like this is the Green Giant. Like, this is a whole nother level, right? They're going to Kansas City. They're playing Patrick Mahomes. It's a 10-point spread. Jake, do Browns fans have any opportunity here for a victory? Like, do you see any scenario in which this team can pull off a win at Arrowhead?
Hell yeah. They won 11 damn games in a playoff game. What have the Chiefs done since before Halloween that makes you think that they can't go in there and win this game? It's a great matchup for the Browns. They should be able to run it down their throats. Baker's playing at a high level. The substance before swag is great, but my favorite part of anything I've seen come out of Cleveland is it's just business as usual in the press conference for Baker. He's looking at the camera. He's not singing stupid lyrics. He's just answering the question like a professional, and life is good. I love what I'm seeing out of Cleveland. I don't think they get it done, but this line is wrong. 10 for a team that just won 11 games and a playoff game? I don't care that their freaking logo says Browns. This is a damn good team who can rush the passer, who can run the football. I think this is a close game. Kansas City better be watching out big time for upset city here, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to, because the biggest reason, Andy Reid coming off a bye, right? Everybody's talking about they got too much rest. They haven't played in 20 days. I'm taking Andy Reid off a bye regardless of all the other things we're going to talk about. But hell yes, the Browns can get this done.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. I think we've said it 3 times on this Against the Spread show where we've gone, the line is wrong, right? You just look at the line, you go, the line is wrong, right? I think this is one of those scenarios where both of you are going to lean that way, right? Because especially, even though, yes, Andy Reid coming off a bye, 2 weeks off, this team, we've already seen them in last year's postseason come out slow, right? They come out slow again. This Browns team takes a lead. They can obviously get back into the game, but that makes that 10 points. That's a lot to overcome if this team comes out and they play a little slow and Cleveland gets up and they run the ball and they try and slow things down a little bit. Now, obviously, I think the Chiefs are going to win. But Jamie, do you have these guys? Do you have Cleveland covering the spread? And to Jake's point, is there any opportunity that Cleveland could upset City here?
Sure. I mean, I'm not going to pick it, but I think there's no game this weekend that a team can't win. There really isn't. There just isn't a matchup there. I don't think they're going to win, but I also normally when you see a 10-point spread, especially when you see it like in the regular season, you're like, yeah, there's not a chance this team wins. I agree with Jake. This line is wrong. And I understand Kansas City is a popular team to bet on, and you kind of get these artificially inflated lines. But when I saw this, like I looked in the mirror and I went, Self, you promised that you would not bet Kansas City minus double digits again. Like you weren't going to do this because you've been talking all year about how they're not covering these large spreads more often than not. They're doing all this other stuff, and I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to take the Browns plus 10. I think both teams put up plenty of points. I mean, Jake, you can see Jake's score prediction below, which goes over the total. I think there might even be a couple more points than that. I think this is going to be a really exciting game where both teams are going to have to go punch for punch with each other, because if Kansas City starts slow, which they very well could, they haven't played meaningful snaps from their starters for a couple weeks now. They're going to put a lot on Mahomes to kind of sling it, and he can, and he will, and he'll probably get the job done. Like, I'm going to pick them to win, but I do not think this is going to be a 2-score game.
Jamie, you're talking to yourself in the mirror, right? You're just telling people, like, I know who these people are, because Jamie is everybody else in the betting community, right? You're all going to look at this, you're going to go, Patrick Mahomes at home, and you're all going to talk yourselves into this. Because you look at this Browns team, and as Jake said, like, don't look at the logo, man. Like, this is they did everything we wanted them to do. They proved it to us. And they proved it to us in a way that, honestly, I couldn't have foreseen, right? I couldn't have foreseen what they did against Pittsburgh. And that earned a lot of respect, I think, from everybody around the NFL. So, a lot to do with that, but a lot to also do with this Kansas City Chiefs team hasn't looked good since they beat Baltimore in, like, October, literally. Like, that's the last time I remember them looking like ultra.
I think that was week 2,
right?
Paige.
It's literally, that's what I'm talking about. It was like September, October. Literally, like that is like the only time I remember looking at them and going, yeah, they're just better than everybody else, right? It's unfair. They're playing it, and then they were just kind of beatable the rest of the year throughout. And I say all that and watch them go put up, 50 points on this Browns team. That can happen, and I'm willing to be wrong.
Paige, there's no team in the NFL the Chiefs can't beat by 2 touchdowns. It doesn't exist, but we're not seeing that team come together completely, and that's going to kind of play into my player prop that's coming up here. Last season, the biggest difference, and the thing that took them from very exciting Super Bowl contender to a Super Bowl favorite, was their defense progressed in the second half of the season. They had that other component. They eliminated that Achilles heel we thought they had in the first half of the 2019 season. That defense is a problem right now. It's been problematic for them all season, and it hasn't really shown any signs of getting better. And I think that's why the Browns are going to be able to hang in this game. And that's why I like this prop bet below for Jarvis Landry over 5.5 catches at plus 125. He's got back-to-back 5-catch games, so I understand why that concerns you. But I think the Browns are going to have to throw this ball, particularly a lot in the second half, because no matter how well they run the ball, at some point, they're going to have to keep up with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City offense. Over the last 6 weeks, Landry is averaging 8.7 targets and 6.5 catches per game. I think that's a pretty good value here on him. He had a couple drops last week, or he would have went over the total last week as well. He's going to get a bunch of targets. He's going to get 8 to 10 in this game. I think he's going to be able to catch more than half of them.
Yeah, also not playing that defense they faced up against last week, right? I think that's the other part of that here is that as much as I love Ty, I want this for them, but this defense has not shown up in the same way that we saw last season. To your point, Jamie, what is the best bet here? What are you dialing in on? What is the best bet here in this matchup specifically? You obviously like Jarvis Landry, but then what else do you like?
So this is one I would say maybe is a half unit bet. Because this one I'm relying more on just what history tells me. And what history tells me, with we put Andy Reid together with Patrick Mahomes, post a bye week, you get points. This is what I looked at this up. This is a tremendous statistic. 6 times Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have been together coming off of a bye. They're averaging, and by the way, including the postseason and including the Super Bowl, 38 points per game. That is what they're averaging coming off of a bye together. They haven't scored fewer than 31 points in any of those instances. And look, the Browns defense hasn't been great either. I mean, I know they've cycled some guys out because of COVID, but they don't have Olivier Verdon, which is a bigger loss than I think is being talked about. And if you take out those poor weather games where they had the opportunity to have low scores because they were playing in like a monsoon, blizzard, Sharknado explosion, whatever you want to call those 3 weeks in a row in Cleveland, they're allowing a shade under 30 points per game themselves. So to me, I'm going to go with history here, and history says that Mahomes and Reid together are going to put up a lot of points coming off of a bye. And honestly, you're never going to feel out of this bet. They could score 3 points in the first quarter, and you could still feel like you're going to win this bet for the rest of the game.
That's because Tyreek Hill exists, guys. It's like you got Patrick Mahomes, who could throw a 80-yard bomb, and a guy who could just beat everybody. That you can never feel like this team is out of it. But I do think that I agree with both of you. I like Browns fans. I think there's still an opportunity, man. You guys all got counted out last week too. Like, let them take this. I can't remember who it was that I was watching this morning on NFL Network that was talking about, even though Baker was played at a blue blood program and he won a Heisman and he's like number 1 overall pick, he's still got this underdog thing going for him, right? Like, he's like, it's not Tom Brady underdog where you were drafted so late that you like, it makes sense. It's like, dude, you won a Heisman, you played at Oklahoma, you're the number 1 overall draft pick, yet he still gets this underdog type of thing. And man, what a win for the underdog if they could pull this off. I'm definitely going for Cleveland. I hope they pull off the upset. But now, if we had a movie trailer, this would be the moment where you would get the really loud noises that were coming in to get all the people excited, because it is for the 3rd time this year, the Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints are facing off against each other. And you guys can recall, I believe you will, I was hoping for this to happen, right? I wanted this to happen because the last game that these two teams played, right, was a poor game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And there is something about Tom Brady. We call it bulletin board material, okay? Bulletin board material. It means him and Giselle, they have a bulletin in their house. And all the guys in the league, they like to open their mouths, okay? Chase Young learned this lesson last week. He said, I want Tom. Yeah, how'd that go, Chase? Yeah, it didn't end so well for you, right? You went up on the bulletin. Okay, that was you on the bulletin. Now Cam Jordan decided to say that Tom Brady was going to get arthritis. That's up on the bulletin, okay? Jameis Winston taking his hands and doing the W after not absolutely doing nothing to earn that victory. Also on the bulletin board, right? So all these things added to the bulletin, right? Because regular season wins, even though New Orleans took care of business in both of these games. This is the postseason. If they win this game, nothing else matters, right? It didn't matter that you beat them 2 times in the regular season. All you're going to talk about is this matchup right here. And I'm so hyped. As you can tell, I'm very excited about this game. So Jake, you're not going to make a pick, but just talk about the Bucs in the postseason and this matchup specifically, because it's not only obviously Brady getting to this point, but it's also Breeze and Brady matching up against each other in a meaningful game in the postseason. It just feels extra important for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I think one of the craziest stats I've ever seen when you start comparing these two guys is Tom Brady has as many playoff wins since turning 40 as Drew Brees has, period. That's nuts.
Holy cow.
I don't care about the first two games, guys. The first game was no preseason. Tom's in a new system for the first time in 20 years, and it was a lot closer than the score looked. He threw a pick six. It kind of got ugly. The second game, you got to give the Saints all the credit in the world. Great game plan, great execution. The wheels didn't fall off. The damn wheels weren't even on the bus. It was just that bad of a game. It was awful. It was 38-3. It was ugly. I don't know what you could take from that either. Antonio Brown's first game, Fournette didn't really do anything then. He's really come on the last couple of weeks. This offensive line's playing tremendously better. I don't know that they're going to face this Saints defensive line is really good. I don't think it's as good as the one they played last week and dominated. And I said earlier, when you win 5 straight and Tom Brady's breaking records, nobody wants to see us coming, including the Saints. Now, yeah, you won. This is just like the Steelers and the Browns last week. Big brother situation, right? You have a chance to go to New Orleans, hit your big brother in the mouth, and this time he doesn't get up. I don't know what more you could ask for if you're a Saints or if you're a Bucs fan or a Bucs player with the opportunity to do this in New Orleans to the Saints. I can't wait for this game. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. And I love what Paige said earlier, quoting my boy Todd Bowles. We're coming in guns blazing. Todd doesn't say anything ever like
ever,
that.
ever.
But I mean, if you're the Bucs, you have 7 now total playoff wins in your history. You haven't been to the second round many times. You're going in there kind of free and loose, where the Saints have had bad exits the last couple of years. By all accounts, this could be Drew Brees' last game. And you don't think Tom Brady wants to stick that on the board? There's no I want Tom. No, but Tom's going to say, okay, final dagger in the rest in peace Drew Brees career came from me. That's the center of the board. That is the ultimate motivator for him. When Brees has gotten the better of him in their head-to-head competitions before. I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. Look, this Saints team is really good. They didn't play that great last week. We started all this Kamara, Michael Thomas coming back, that kind of stuff.
Don't even get me started. Wims catch the damn ball, dude. Come on.
Yeah, it's a totally different game if he does.
Come on.
They were not great, but they have a phenomenal roster. That defense is still really, really good. And eventually you got to prove it. So it's up to the Bucs to do that. But I don't think you could take a lot from this regular season, as Paige said. Playoffs are different.
Yep. Playoffs are different. And I think the line not being anything other than a traditional 3-point favorite would tell you that Vegas agrees, right? Like this is not skewed in a way that you would see where you watched what happened in the regular season and then the line reflects that, right? Like that's not the case. It's the traditional 3 points that you get when you're at home. And I think obviously everything that Jake talked about factors in here, but I saw that quote from Todd Bowles and I was like, where is a brick wall, baby? Like I am hyped. Todd never talks like that. I'm like, he never says anything. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, man, just get to Drew. If you learned anything from that game against Chicago, that first half, they put a lot on tape of making Drew really uncomfortable and that offense could not get going. So Jaime, on that note, you are making a pick. The Bucs are getting 3. They're on the road against the Saints. You know all the storylines because we just talked about them. What do you see happening in this one?
I'm going to take the Bucs to cover here. I think they can absolutely win this game. Look, to me, if you believe in any of the storyline aspect of it or the destiny of sports, there is no other path for Tampa Bay. If you want to get to where you want to go, you have to beat Big Brother. You have to beat the Saints. And you went 0 for 2 in your first 2 shots at this time. You have another chance right now, and it's the biggest chance that you have for a shot at the conference championship game. There is no team in the NFL, and there's definitely no team in the NFC, but probably no team in the NFL hotter than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. And the way that offense is rolling, the way they're getting things done on a weekly basis. The Saints have a phenomenal roster, but I have not loved the way they have played in recent weeks. They're playing a lot of close games. Drew Brees, since he's come back, is not getting Alvin Kamara quite as involved in the passing game as he was before. They're not going to be able to run the ball effectively against Tampa Bay. They haven't for 2 years. Nobody has for the last 2 years, and it's not going to change this weekend, I don't think. So they're going to become very one-dimensional again, and Michael Thomas isn't the same player he was a year ago. Alvin Kamara isn't as involved in the passing game as he was a year ago, or even before Breeze's injury. I think that's going to open the door for the Buccaneers to at least hang around and be in this game often, and in a close game with a season on the line, based on what you have seen over the course of their career and over the course of this season, I'm going to defer to Tom Brady. Period. End of story. And I think the Buccaneers get the job done, but I do think this is a 3-point game in either direction. I'm prepared to push on this bet if I'm wrong, but I really think this is going to be in a very close game throughout, and it's going to be the true popcorn game of the weekend, even though a lot of the sizzle is going to be in Baltimore and Buffalo. And if those were, 40 degrees and sunny, maybe that would be the game of the weekend. I think in the Superdome, this is going to be the game of the weekend.
Yeah, you got Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans, which is always must-see TV. You've got, this offensive line that, as Jake said, like you had a tough task last week against that Washington defensive front, and man, did they step up in such a crucial moment for their quarterback. And oh, by the way, Gronk looked damn good on the line blocking for his quarterback, right? You saw him literally push a grown-ass human 3 feet. Like, I was like, dear God, good luck trying to block that man. He is so good. He is in his kind of peak mode again. So let's talk player props, Jamie. I know where you're headed. I took a sneak peek at this one, and I'm all in. I'm cheating. And you want to know why? Because there is nobody that I'm rooting for that does not play for the team that I love, the Chicago Bears, more than Mike Evans. He is the most likable, underrated, like, superstar that doesn't get enough love. And I know there were a bunch of Bucs fans who were like, he's not going to play in last week's game. And I was like, you know nothing about Mike Evans if you think he's not going to play in that game. Like, if you think he's missing this postseason game, you are out of your damn mind. And I want him to get the best of Marshawn Lattimore, and I want him in the end zone scoring a touchdown. So I like this one, James. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, Evans has the 10th most targets in the red zone in the NFL this year, 4th most red zone touchdowns with 9. Already has a red zone touchdown against the Saints way back there in week 1. And I just think if you're talking about touchdown value of the guys that are just red zone target hogs and they score a bunch, you think of the Devontae Adamses of the world, the Travis Kelce's, the other player above him's not playing anymore. That's Adam Thielen. But all those guys, like if you look at like Kelce or you look at Devontae Adams, their touchdown props are like minus 150, minus 170. Like there's no value there. You get plus odds here with Mike Evans at plus 120 to get in the end zone. They're going to look at him all over the field. He's got the big play potential. He's got the red zone potential. And I think there's going to be plenty of points for the Tampa Bay offense in this game. This is the one, if you're going to do a receiver touchdown bet with one of the top red zone options, this is not even close the best value of any of the top pass catchers this weekend.
I love this one. And we're all rooting for Mike to get the best of this matchup this upcoming weekend. All right, Jamie, your best bet. What is the best bet coming out of this game between the Buccaneers and the Saints?
So I'm going to have the Buccaneers doing something that they've done 14 of their 17 games this year, but haven't done against New Orleans. And that is score 24 offensive points. Actually, it's not even offensive points, just 24 points in general. You can get a pick 6. They all count. To me, here's what I look at. Not only have they scored 24 or more in 14 of their 17 games this year, their offense is averaging 34.1. I'm double checking this because that's a massive number. 34.1 points per game since that Saints blowout that we've talked about. 5 touchdowns a game average. That's ridiculous. Oh, and by the way, no team in the NFL has scored more points on the road this year than Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 32.8. Like, they are putting up points in bunches. Tom Brady is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL right now. I think they're going to be able to put up plenty of points in this game, and that's what's going to keep them in it. So 23.5, I know minus 145 isn't the greatest. I mean, you're getting juiced a little bit here. But to me, I think just getting to 24, they've done that so often this year. I don't care that they haven't done it yet against New Orleans.
I know I don't make picks on this show usually, but I promised Bucs fans I would make a pick. 27-24, Tampa. We ride. We stand. Tom Brady, the GOAT. See ya, Drew. It's a wrap, right? I'm all in. I want it to be over. I want it to be ultimate bulletin board material. I'm going to make a virtual one for you guys, and you better believe I'm going to do exactly what Jake said. I'm going to be like, nice picture of Drew waving, right? Saying bye-bye, bye-bye. It's been a nice career, Drew, but it's all about Tom in the division now. And oh, by the way, even though he's the older guy, do not lump him in with everybody else because he's on the ultimate FU tour, okay? That's like Aaron that you want to do it for 1 year. Tom's been doing it for 20 years. Okay. He's always on an FU tour. That's the difference between him and everybody else. All right. We have reached the end of the show, which means the guys are going to get 2 minutes, 1 minute apiece to just give you guys their final thoughts. They're going to break it down for you. Whatever's on their mind, they get a minute apiece. Jake, since you haven't been around for a while, I'm going to be very nice to you. I'm going to allow you to go first. So go ahead. You got a minute. Jake has the floor.
A couple more guys to pay attention to in the Bucs New Orleans game. Donovan Smith has to show up like he did last week. Got trucked by Hendricks in the second matchup, but the last time they played, he has to show up big time. The other one is Shaq Barrett. You led the NFL in 19.5 sacks last year. You've been there in pressures, and pressures will help in this game. You got to get home and get a sack fumble. You got to make something happen. Superstars, he's a free agent again. He got franchised this year. Make your money. Show up when it matters in the playoffs. The other thing is Arians.rivalsmedia.com. Still going on. Make your picks. Join us there. And please wear your mask, people. Like, we all took a lot of this for granted, but getting sick and having this for the last couple of weeks, man, has been absolutely freaking brutal. I'm ready for this crap to go away. Get vaccinated, wear your mask, and stay safe and stay healthy, man. This is no joke.
I appreciate. Listen, Jake gave me a few seconds. How kind of him to be able to give me those few seconds. But I think obviously such an important message, Jake, that you have given to everybody, and we're glad you're back with us, man. Glad you're back with us and feeling it. Not 100, but 85, right? He talked about how everybody in the NFL, they're not really feeling 100% this time of year. Nobody is. So he'll be back. Don't worry about that. Jamie, you got a minute. Go ahead. You got the floor.
I'll talk about the potential changing of the guard that we're seeing in the NFL this year. And we've led up to this for a few weeks by talking about how open the NFL really is and how open the Super Bowl potentially contenders are. We're looking, take a look at the screen right now to your right and look at the teams that are listed there. We have a legitimate chance that on conference championship weekend, the Bills, the Browns, and the Bucs could be playing for a chance at the Super Bowl. I think about what the history of those franchises are, particularly what the history of those franchises are these last few years, and I guess the Browns forever. But everybody else, like the last few years in general, like that is just almost unfathomable to believe that if I would have told you a couple years ago that you would see a conference championship weekend potentially with all three of those teams in, you would have just shrugged me off completely. I think that is awesome for the NFL to see these teams rise. The Bills look like they can be contenders with Josh Allen for some time. Baltimore have been contenders with Lamar Jackson. You obviously know what's happening in KC with Patrick Mahomes. But I love to see the changing of the guard. And to Paige's point from earlier, I love that we're not getting the same old matchups every single year anymore, which is kind of bogged down the AFC playoffs for as fun as they were for a long time. I know I'm over my time now.
I know. I'm just letting you. I'm letting it ride. I'm letting it ride. It's playoffs. Go ahead.
We all love the Manning Brady stuff, but there was a point where like I couldn't watch Colts Patriots. I couldn't watch Broncos Patriots or Ravens Patriots every single freaking year. Like there's a point where you want to see some new blood. Tom Brady's still hanging out, but at least he's in a new conference, so he's getting some new matchups. We're seeing some new blood around the NFL, and I think it's extremely exciting. And look, we might have seen, I don't think so, but we might have seen Ben Roethlisberger's last NFL pass. This weekend, we might see Drew Brees' last NFL pass. We might have already seen Phillip Rivers' last NFL pass. The changing of the guard is here, and it's been foretold these last couple of years, but it's really coming to fruition here this postseason.
You know whose pass you haven't seen the last of? It's Tom Brady. That's my final thoughts on this show is do not lump him in with everybody else, ladies and gentlemen, because he is not a part of that list for a very specific reason, and that is because he is the most dominant and competitive player that is, like, he's just in another class. And if you need to, I have said this on our podcast, on the TDM Fantasy podcast, go back and watch the last game they played in. I don't have to tell you which throws they are. You'll find them. There's two of them. And they're FU throws. Okay. They're perfect throws that someone that's 43 years old has absolutely no business in an NFL playoff game throwing. Right. And they had that graphic where they showed him and George, and you're like, who's George? George has been smoking cigarettes for 2 decades, and he's 43 and Tom is 43. Right. And you're like, no way, that dude's a grandpa and that guy's a supermodel. Right. Like those are the two that's what you were looking at on national television. And we were laughing at it. And now they've got the thing with Drew Brees and Tom next to each other in the History Channel. Like, we've been having some fun with this. I like that these guys are having fun with the fact that they're the old guys and the changing of the guard. The difference is Tom isn't letting the guard take him away yet. Like, he's not ready for the guard. The rest of the dudes, time for a change. He's sticking around, and he dipped out of the AFC just at the right time. Seems to be good timing there, Tom. Now you don't have to deal with Josh Allen and all these young guys over in that division. All right, everybody. It's the end. You can tell we're all excited for postseason. There's a lot of energy on the show today, even for Jake, who's coming off the IR, which we're happy to have you back, man. Tell everybody how they can follow you on social media. Why don't you start with that?
Jake Arians on Twitter and Arians NFL on Instagram.
And Jamie?
Follow me at Jaime Eisner on Twitter and follow our account at TDN Fantasy to listen to our podcast. See a replay of this if you want all these other parts, if you maybe missed part of the show. And see all of our prop bets for the weekend, everything going out there. It's going to be really exciting. This is traditionally the most exciting weekend, I think, of the NFL playoffs. Wildcard weekend might turn into that with those extra games, but in terms of quality, I think we're going to have a better weekend this weekend than we did last week.
My last thing here is you guys can follow me at _sports page with an I on both Twitter and Instagram. And listen, wear the mask, Cleveland. I'm looking at you, okay? Because if you win this game, I know y'all are going to want to be ratchet. Okay, and I get it. I wish that you could be. I wish that you could be out doing crazy stuff and celebrating and having this moment. Just celebrate virtually with your friends on Zoom. Buffalo, you can go break a table in your backyard. Just responsibility here, okay? I get it. You guys are all going to want to get crazy. And, man, I wish you could just party safely. Those are my parting thoughts on today's show. And enjoy this weekend in the NFL.